Agenda setting. By featuring them regularly and prominently, the news has the power to shape public opinion regarding the significance of particular topics. Appeal to fear. Appealing to fear creates a sense of fear and terror in the broader public to gain support. Appeal to prejudice. Putting something's worth or moral quality at the expense of bias. Inevitable victory. Others who are already, or at least partially, on the bandwagon are reassured that sticking aboard is their best course of action. Invite others not currently on the bandwagon to join those already on the path to definite victory. Join the crowd. This tactic is employed to persuade viewers that a show represents an appealing mass movement and that it would benefit them to become involved. Beautiful people. Usually, this method is applied to advertising rather than politics. It's the kind of propaganda that features well-known individuals or presents joyful, attractive people. This implies that others will also be happy or successful if they purchase a certain good or stick to a particular philosophy. Big lie. This tactic is based on the fundamental belief that large lies are easier for people to believe than tiny ones. It can occur because people don't know how to start criticizing it. Classical conditioning. Everyone reacts to classical conditioning, a behavioral process in which a neutral stimulus is repeatedly linked to a natural stimulus so that only the neutral stimulus is needed to evoke the same reaction. Cognitive dissonance. It makes use of people's need for consistency. For instance, if an analyst discovers that a particular group of individuals loves actor A but despises his senatorial candidate, he might use actor A's support of their candidate to convince the group to change their beliefs. Plain folk. It makes an effort to convince the audience that the propagandist's viewpoints represent popular wisdom. By speaking in the common language and manner of the intended audience, it aims to gain the audience's trust. A typical illustration of this kind of propaganda is a politician, generally seeking office or setting up shop in a backyard and going about their everyday business. Cult of personality. When someone utilizes the media to project an idealized and heroic public image, often by uncritically praising the hero's personality and flattering them, and then advocates for the causes that the propagandist wants to advance, a cult of personality develops. Demonizing the enemy, giving the impression that people on the other side are immoral or unacceptable. Demoralization, propaganda intended to weaken a rival's will to fight and promote defection or surrender. Dictat. By providing the audience with precise instructions through words and graphics, this strategy seeks to streamline the decision-making process by removing any other options. Disinformation. The act of adding or removing information from public records to create a false account of a situation or the deeds of a person or group. This includes the fabrication of printed documents, films, audio files, and photos. Divide and rule. It refers to acquiring and retaining power by dividing more powerful groups into smaller groups that collectively possess less power than the person employing the approach. Using euphemism. A euphemism is a generally acceptable term or phrase that is substituted for one that could be interpreted negatively or that suggests something disagreeable. Euphoria. Using a fun event that makes people happy to raise spirits, such as a military parade featuring marching bands and patriotic speeches, or providing opulent goods. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, sometimes shortened for FUD, is an attempt to sway public opinion by spreading incorrect, questionable, and unfavorable material that is meant to cast doubt on people's beliefs. It might be seen as an example of the appeal to fear tactic in action. Firehose of Falsehood. It's a kind of propaganda when a lot of messages are quickly, repeatedly, and continuously disseminated via several platforms, including social media and news, without any consideration for consistency or accuracy. Flag waving. It's an attempt to defend a course of action by claiming that it would increase patriotism or otherwise benefit a group, nation, or idea. Flak. Attempts to refute or throw doubt on the widely held beliefs. Foot in the door technique. Recruiters and salespeople frequently employ this tactic in which the offender approaches the victim and pins a flower or offers them a small gift. After expressing gratitude and establishing a psychological debt to the offender, the victim eventually requests a bigger favor. Framing. It occurs when facts are presented in a way that manipulates the audience's perception in order to persuade a political audience to support one side of an argument over the other. Gish Gallop. During a debate, barrage a political opponent with excessively detailed questions in rapid fire to give the impression that the opponent is ignorant of the subject. Glittering generalities. Emotionally appealing terms that are used to describe a concept or product but lack a specific justification or analysis are known as glittering generalizations. Its purpose is to have the audience associate the idea or product with a well-known uplifting value. They request permission without considering the rationale. Guilt by association. By implying that the notion is well liked by organizations that the target audience despises, this tactic is intended to induce them to disagree with a particular action or viewpoint. Half-truth. A half-truth is a statement that is misleading but contains some aspect of the truth. It can take many different forms. It can be entirely truthful but only contain a portion of the truth, or it can use a misleading element like incorrect punctuation. Information overload. Overload occurs when a subject is subjected to an overwhelming volume of information that makes it more difficult to comprehend the situation and make wise judgments. Intentional vagueness. Saying something that is so ambiguous as to be meaningless or susceptible to different interpretations diverts focus away from important issues or queries. Labeling. Utilizing a derogatory term or phrase to describe someone, something, or a group. Latitudes of acceptance. A more radical position on the matter could be adopted first to persuade someone to accept something they disagree with, so that when the real moderate argument is made, it will be accepted. Another tactic that would seem to be more appropriate would be to gradually shift from one's perspective to one that more closely aligns with the target's beliefs over time. Limited hangout. When someone's wall of confidentiality is torn apart and he is unable to fabricate a false narrative to mislead the public, he may resort to confessing or even offering up partial truths while still managing to conceal the most important and harmful details of the case. Most of the time, the public is so fascinated by the fresh information that they never consider looking into it more. Loaded language. Particular expressions that are intended to evoke powerful feelings in the viewer. Love bombing. A practice known as love bombing is used to draw someone into a cult or ideology by showing him a lot of attention to break him away from his previous ideals and social support system. Milieu control. Using group language and social pressure to control someone's communication style and environment. Slang is one form of this, as it helps group members recognize one another. An excessively unusual communication style could lead to social exclusion from the community. Obfuscation. It occurs when someone purposefully makes a message hard to understand. Operant conditioning. Through the process of operant conditioning, one can learn to modify actions by associating a particular stimulus with either punishment or reinforcement. Oversimplification. Advantageous generalizations are applied to simplify complicated problems. Paltering. Paltering is the deliberate use of part of the truth in order to intentionally mislead. Pensée Unique. Limit the conversation by using extremely straightforward language or reasoning. Quotes out of context. Selectively altering quotes so as to alter their meanings. Rationalization. People use rationalization as a coping strategy to explain away uncomfortable or challenging emotions by offering what appear to be reasonable justifications. Repetition. This is the practice of using a particular sign or slogan repeatedly to help the audience remember it. Scapegoating. Assigning blame to a person or group might help relieve guilty parties' sentiments or divert attention away from the need to address the issue. Semantic Satiation. With repeated use and application to unimportant charges, this tactic aims to decrease the power of a particular word by normalizing it and making it less offensive. Smear campaign. A deliberate and planned attempt to damage the reputation of a person or organization is known as a smear campaign. Testimonials, quotations, whether true or not, that are used to bolster a claim are called testimonials. Third-party technique takes advantage of the tendency for individuals to be more open to an argument from a supposedly impartial source of information than from someone who has an interest in the result. Transfer. It's a tactic of projecting one person's good or bad traits onto another in an attempt to discredit or normalize the target of the projection. Unstated assumption. This tactic is applied when a propaganda idea is constantly assumed or suggested rather than expressed clearly, as it would make the idea seem less credible. Whataboutism. It's an approach that aims to undermine an opponent's argument by accusing them of being hypocritical without actually challenging or disproving their claims. Misuse of statistics. Many propaganda techniques use logical fallacies or biases in order to manipulate people's impressions of a certain topic by reporting statistics in an incorrect way. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like our channel for more enthusiastic content.